you the entire event. No slant, no editing, the whole story. A complete view without the angle. Watch PCN on cable and on the PCN app. Stream politics and policy on your favorite device for free.
Joining me is House Majority Leader Kerry Benninghoff. He's a Republican who represents a district in Center and Mifflin counties. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having us.
Now, in June, then Speaker of the House Mike Turzai decided to resign his seat, and that led to a reshuffling of positions, and you were elected to be Majority Leader. Why did you seek that position?
Well, I had served as Majority Whip prior and as a policy chairman on our leadership team, and Majority Whip serves almost as an assistant to the current leader, and I thought it was a great opportunity. My tenure here gives me the opportunity to help mentor some of our newer members and just lead in a different capacity. I've also been honored to serve as a standing committee chairman for the Finance Committee and State Government. Just kind of one of those things that evolved and worked out well, and we had an internal election, which is not an easy process, and I was honored to be elected by my members to serve as the leader for the remainder of this term.
Now, you served in the House for 24 years. What have you seen from majority leaders during your tenure that you liked and that you want to bring to the job?
Well, as you can imagine, everybody has their own style, and I'm not trying to emulate any one particular member or former leader. And I think that uniqueness and individuality is really what makes our chamber work better. And it's interesting, over that tenure, you have the ability to listen to other members and see what it is that gets their attention and what they like in leadership styles. So I've tried to take that experience and that information and try to tailor my own work. I'm pretty well known as someone that's pretty easy to talk to. I have a very open door policy. I actually geographically kept my office in the hallway, formerly known as Chairman's Row, when I became whip, even though that's not the designated office, because it really perpetuated good flow of members and visitors coming in and out. And I want our members to feel comfortable, regardless of what position I serve in, that they can call us, come visit, come talk. As I jokingly say, come grab a Coke Zero, grab a cookie, whatever it is. That I think to be a good leader, you have to be able to willing to listen and be able to hear out our members. We've got a lot of energetic members with a lot of great ideas, and I don't claim to know everything. So my style is probably a little bit more just my own, and some of that is things I've learned from other members. But at the end of the day, I think what most members have wanted and maybe did not always have in some of the past was good communication.
Now, you take over as majority leader at a time when there's a pandemic going on, a lot of other things happening. What's the biggest challenge in assuming that job during this time?
Well, as you can imagine, this is probably one of the most challenging times, in addition to being in the middle of a pandemic, which really has people fearful in a lot of ways throughout our communities, and a lot of us fearful of the unknown. Fortunately, I had worked in healthcare prior to coming to the legislature, and so I'm somewhat adept to how people react to medical issues. I also served as county coroner, so I've seen the extremes of things. A lot of our issues obviously are going to be based on finances as well. We are also looking at a significant shortfall in money within the state budget. So we did pass a truncated budget to make sure our public schools were fully funded, as well as our higher education institutions. But the biggest challenge is sometimes we have issues that pop up and being able to react to those types of things. But all in all, it's about trying to give our constituents some sense of security, that we are paying attention, that we are trying to make sure that there are resources available to our hospitals, our emergency services people, and those that are on the front line that may have to respond should one of them get ill. They want to see us make sure that we're responding to the federal dollars that came to us and investing them in the smart things like the testing that a lot of people want, and even some investment that we made as a decision to invest in vaccine development here in Pennsylvania in some of our own great research institutes. Because at the end of the day, they're sitting at home and they're worried about their families, and they want to make sure their kids are taken care of. The other top issue, I believe, is whether or not kids are going to go back to school. And I should say children. It's very important to families, and I think that they're very concerned. A lot of them lost the last couple months of last year. Those seniors had less than a normal type of graduation set up, and we would not like that to be repeated this year. I really believe very strongly in the classroom instruction. I think it's good for our development of our young people. I think it's good for families, especially now that more and more businesses are opening up and families are going back to work, especially in households who have both parents working. So we're pushing very hard in this administration to come out with a plan so that families, teachers, children have some idea where their future is in the next couple of months. Because frankly, in another month, school bells should be ringing and children should be in their desk learning.
Now, one of the topics that's associated with schools is, of course, school sports. And you recently sent a letter to Governor Wolf regarding spectators at school sports. So what were your concerns there?
Well, I sent that for several reasons, obviously, because I am a representative of 65,000 people in my own area, but also of our 203 members on the House who represent the other 12.6 million people here in Pennsylvania. And going to sporting events is not just about an entertainment element, but we really feel that if you're going to allow this to be done, and you have historically over the last couple months said that the decision for whether schools should open or not should be done on a parochial level here in our own communities, which a lot of us support, local control of our schools, then we ought to let our school boards use their insight and their ability to decide whether or not there should be participation by fans and family. Secondary to that is parents know best what's for their children, and we have some people participating in sports who may have some medical conditions, whether it's asthma, history of epilepsy, maybe they have some intellectual challenges, but they're still participating in these sports. And sadly, when somebody gets injured, which does happen in sports sometimes, we need parents on board and we need them there present because they can also times alert us to things that we may not know or adverse reactions that a child may have to medications or some type of therapy. As someone who worked in a hospital, one of the first things that happens when somebody gets transported to the facility is, especially if they're a minor, is do you have a permission slip for this child to be treated? And obviously in severe cases, we try to treat and try to get that permission, but there's a lot of reasons why we need to have parents on site if we're going to be moving forward with these extracurricular activities. Fundamentally, I think they're good for our communities as well. They're gathering points. I think in this certain time, it gives people some sense of normalcy that we can still get together Friday night under the lights, have the band playing, have the cheerleaders cheering. And frankly, I think people have been well conditioned on how to do this properly, washing properly, wearing masks, and social distancing. That's one of the reasons we sent a letter. We need the governor's administration to reach out and give permission to these schools to make choices on a local level, just as they are regarding opening classrooms. Why not do the same thing for these extra scholastic types of entertainment and activities?
Have you received a response from the PIAA or from the governor's office?
My staff has actually talked to some members of the PIAA, and some of our members actually sit on their board, and they're actually supportive. And I think they also believe that this can be done safely and that we can look at the better well-being of our children and our visitors to these types of events and still be able to conduct them and do it well.
Now, another thing that came through the House recently was a constitutional amendment that would limit the length of emergency declarations, among some other things.